Ayato. Whether you got him and want to learn how to build him, or if you lost the 50-50 to Chi-Chi once again and want to see if you missed out on much, or if you're just curious, you came to the right place. Hi, my name is Avarize, and today we'll be discussing Ayato. We'll be looking at his kit, best artifacts, weapons, and much more. If you're looking for something in particular, I'll be leaving the timestamps in the description below. Well then, let's begin. And now for a quick overview of Ayato. This is his base stats at level 80, and this will be compared to every other sword user at level 80 as well. Leveling up will also upgrade his crit damage, and for his HP, we have him at 12,101 HP, which is extremely high. His attack is also pretty high as well at 264, but his defense is actually quite low at 678. Keep in mind that these stats quickly change due to the artifacts or weapon that Ayato is wielding. This is to get Ayato to Phase Ascension 5, which is the Phase Ascension we're going to be working with, and for this you're going to need 1 Veronata Lazurite Silver, 9 Fragments, and 9 Chunks. You're also going to need 18 Old Handguards, 30 Kagyochi Handguards, and 12 Fame Handguards. You're also going to need 108 Sakura Bloom, which can only be found in Narukami Island and Inazuma. And for the boss material required, you're going to need 26 Dew of Reputation, which can only be attained through the Hydro Hypostasis. For Phase Ascension 6, you're going to need 6 gems, 20 more dews, 60 more Sakuras, and 24 more famed handguards. And for the talent materials, this is just to get 1 talent from level 1 to level 8. So for this, you're going to need 6 Owen handguards, 22 Kagyochi handguards, and 10 famed handguards. You're also going to need Elegance books, which can only be obtained in the Violet Court on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. You're going to need 3 teachings, 21 guides, and 10 philosophies. And for the weekly boss material required, you're going to need 2 Mudra of the Malefic General, which is a job obtained by the Guardian of Eternity. This will cost you 502,500 Mora. And this is if you want to get 2 talents to level 8. And this is for 3 talents to level 8. For Ayato's normal attack, Kamisato Art, Marubashi, has a 5-hit combo. This is neither a high or low combo since all sword users have a 5-hit combo. Here is his attack in 4 different angles. And this is in slow motion. His first hit deals 76.9% damage, which is average. Second hit deals 80.6% damage, which is above average. His third hit is also above average at 100.2%. His fourth hit does a double 50.3% damage, which would do slightly below average damage. And for his fifth attack, it deals 129.2% damage, which is above average. His charge attack deals 221.4% damage, which is below average. And his plunge is 100.9.3. Low is 218.5 and high is 272.9% damage. Plunge is a unique case. All sword users except Kazuha has the same plunge damage, while Kazuha is the only different one and does higher plunge damage than the rest. So technically, his plunge damage is below average, but at the same time it's kinda not since so many other sword users does the same amount of damage. And for his skill, Kamisato Art, Kyoka, leaves behind an illusion of himself. It will explode once enemies are near or after the duration ends, and will deal AoE Hydra damage when it pops. He will also gain a new set of attacks called Takimeguri Kanka, if I pronounced that right. It will deal Hydra damage that can't be overridden, and even though you only have a 3-hit combo during its duration, it is very fast. The combo multiplier also changes since it's a whole new set of attacks, and the values are the following. At level 8, his first hit deals 90.4% damage, which is high. Second hit deals 100.7% damage, which is also high, as well as the third, which deals 111% damage. If you switch out to a different character, you will lose the effects, and while the ability is active, you will lose the ability to do charge and plunge attacks. But while in this new state, you will gain a Nami-san effect, which is this little floaty thing right here, and it will increase your skill damage based off Ayato's max HP, with a maximum stack of 4. Although the best thing about this is since it removes your ability to do charge attacks, you can still hold your attack button and you will still attack continuously without losing any stamina, since you technically aren't doing charge attacks. Although this has a quite short duration of 6 seconds, you can do a lot in this time. I do mean it when I say his attacks are fast. You can deal a total of 15 hits without any buffs as long as you don't get interrupted. It also has a quite moderate cooldown of 12 seconds as well, so you don't have to wait that long once the skill duration is over. And for his burst, Kamisato Art Tsuyu will cast a large ring, and within this ring, Hydro Blades will fall into enemies and will also increase the normal attack damage of characters within it. These blades will actually target enemies. However, it will only look for enemies that hasn't been hit by the last 2 or 3 Hydro Blades. If all enemies has been hit by a targeted attack, a new blade will fall in a random place in the area of effect. It's still possible for a random blade to hit an enemy and will not count as a targeted blade. Although it's a bit hard to tell what's being targeted or not, especially if you're fighting a lot of mobs at once. And for the normal attack boost to your party, it will be increased depending on the talent level you have it at, so it actually doesn't scale off anything. So at burst level 8, it will be increasing normal attack damage by 18% for everyone in your party. The duration of this burst is 18 seconds, which is a pretty long time, which is pretty good, and the cooldown is 20 seconds. The energy cost of this burst is quite high as well at 80 energy, so it will take quite a bit to charge up. So now for the passive talents. His first passive talent, Kamisato Art Mine wo Matoishi Kiyotaki, I'm really sorry if I'm butchering it, but it's unlocked after the first ascension. His skill will have the following properties. After it is used, Ayato will gain 2 Namisen stacks, and when the water illusion explodes, Ayato will gain a Namisen effect equal to the maximum number of stacks possible. So pretty much you don't have to worry about getting to the max stack as fast as possible, since this passive will help a lot with that. And for his second passive, Kamisato Art Michiyuku Hagetsu, unlocked after the 4th ascension, if Kamisato Ayato is not on the field and his energy is less than 40, he will regenerate 2 energy for himself every second. So he's pretty much helping himself with energy recharge, which is quite useful since his burst is quite costly at 80. And for his final passive, Kamisato Art Failing Cooking, not really an art, but when Ayato cooks a dish perfectly, he has an 18% chance to receive an additional suspicious dish of the same type. Here we will discuss the best talents to level up for him, as well as the ones you should avoid in order to help you save time and hundreds of thousands of mora. So for the first talent you should be leveling up is his skill. This is because this is what you're going to be using the most. It deals good damage and it is also very quick. The cooldown may be a bit long, but you actually may not feel it as much if you use up his entire duration. And coming in second is his burst. You should have this pretty close, if not the same as the skill. Although the Hydro Blades falling may not be reliable for great damage, it is certainly beneficial to teammates that use a lot of normal attacks. But if I'm being honest, it kinda makes it a bit situational if you want to get the absolute most out of it. And for the last is his normal attack. Save yourself the mora and don't bother leveling this up. This actually has no effect on how much damage you do on his skill. This is because, as we've seen before, his skill actually does its own combination of attacks with its own multiplier. So this makes it really useless to level up his normal attack. And even if you did, there will be no point, because after you use up his skill, it's just going to be those 6 seconds of waiting. So it's not really worth it to level up his normal attack just to get those 6 seconds in before using a much better attack. And most of the time, you will also be switching out to somebody else that will deal better damage anyways. So for the first constellation, Kyokafushi, his skill damage is increased by 40% against opponents with 50% HP or less. This will help Ayato with damage after the enemy is below 50% HP, obviously, but it is actually not anything too crazy to lose your countless primos on. His second constellation, World Source, Namisen's maximum stack count is increased to 5. When Ayato has at least 3 Namisen stacks, his max HP is increased by 50%. There are people that argue you can't make a solid main DPS Ayato without C2, and it's low-key kinda not hard to see why. It will definitely boost him up from being a solid DPS to a great DPS. And for his third constellation, To Admire the Flowers, will increase his skill level by 3 and make the max level be 15. His fourth constellation, Endless Flow, after using his burst, all nearby party members will have a 15% increased normal attack speed for 15 seconds. Nothing too crazy to make or break Ayato, but it will definitely help him out getting those extra attacks in with his skill, as well as other party members. His fifth constellation, Bansui Ichiro, will increase his burst level by 3 and make the max level be 15. And his final sixth constellation, Boundless Origin, after using his skill, Ayato's next skill attack will create 2 extra clones that will strike when they hit opponents, each one dealing 450% of Ayato's attack as damage. But both of these clones attacks will not be affected by the Namisen. Obviously, this is the craziest of all his constellations, and you will see an even greater boost to his damage, which is expected, since if you got him to C6, you will most likely be looking for the most bang for your buck. For weapons, we will discuss the top 3 5-star weapons as well as the top 3 4-star weapons, in case you don't have any of the 5 stars. So for the first 5-star weapon we have coming in is the Haran Geppaku Futsu. The second set is crit rate, and this will increase your elemental damage bonus by 12% at R1. And when other party members use their skill, whoever has this weapon, Ayato in this case, will gain a special stack that has a max stack of 2. And when Ayato uses his own skill, these stacks will be consumed and will increase normal attack damage by 20% at R1 for 8 seconds. Basically meant for Ayato. Came out at the same time as him, and the passive pretty much beefs his skill damage pretty well. And coming in second is the Primordial Jade Cutter. Second set is crit rate, and this will increase your HP by 20% at R1. Additionally, it will provide an attack bonus based off on 1.2% of the wielder's max HP at R1. This definitely has something that the Haran doesn't, which is the HP increase. As seen before, his attack will increase based off his max HP. And for the third weapon we have is the Mist Splitter Reforged. The second set is crit damage and will increase your elemental damage bonus by 12% at R1. Your elemental damage will also be boosted up to 3 stacks. If you do a normal attack that does elemental damage, use your burst, or if your energy is below 100%. This is definitely pretty good for Ayato, but if you have any of the other swords I mentioned, you're better off with that. This will definitely increase your overall elemental damage, and it's easy to trigger the max stack since he attacks so quickly. And now for the 4 stars. So for the first 4 star we have coming in is the Black Sword. The second set is crit rate, and this will increase damage dealt by normal or charge attacks by 20% at R1. Additionally, it will regenerate 60% of attack at R1 as HP when normal or charge attacks score a critical hit. It can only occur once every 5 seconds. This isn't actually bad at all for Ayato. The increase to normal attacks will help him out with his skill, and you can focus a little bit on crit damage since this sword does help out on that crit rate just a little bit. Although I do understand that this is a $10 weapon, so if you don't want to pay for that, we also have the Prototype Rancor. The second set is physical damage bonus, and this will increase normal and charge attacks by 4% at R1 every hit with a maximum of 4 stacks. Although it is a little bit awkward since you can't really take full advantage of the physical damage bonus, it can be a little bit helpful if you're running a main DPS Ayato, where then you will want to level up his normal attack so you can have him up 24/7. It can help his skill damage just a bit, and it's definitely free to play friendly since you can craft this weapon. And for the final 4-star weapon we have is the Amenoma Kalgeuchi. The second set is attack, and once you use his skill, he will get a special stack that can only be triggered once every 5 seconds for a total of 30 seconds. And after using his burst, all these stacks will be consumed and will regenerate 6 energy at R1 for your character. This will definitely help his overall attack, but this will lean more if you're kind of struggling with getting energy recharge. It is a bit costly at 80, so if you want to have it as ready as soon as possible, you may want to take a look at this weapon. It is also free to play friendly since you can also craft this weapon. So for artifacts, we'll be discussing the best sets, main stats, and substats depending on how you want to play them. So for the first set we have is the 4-piece Heart of Depth. The 2-piece set will increase Hydro damage by 15%, and the 4-piece will increase your normal attack and charge attack damage by 30% for 15 seconds after you use up a skill. This is definitely one of the best sets you can have on him. Not only will you increase your Hydro damage, but you will also increase your skill damage even further. And coming in second is the 4-piece Gladiator's Finale. The 2-piece set will increase attack by 18%, and the 4-piece set will increase your normal attack damage by 35% if the user uses a sword, claymore, or polearm. This definitely will help out a lot if you want to get that attack up. Although this will be very hard to obtain since there isn't a set domain to get these artifacts. And for the third set we have is a 4-piece Echoes of an Offering. The 2-piece set will also increase your attack by 18%, and to summarize the 4-piece, when you hit an opponent with a normal attack, there will be a 36% chance that you will trigger a special attack that will increase your normal attack damage by 70% of your attack. And if a normal attack fails to trigger this, the odds will increase by 20% for your next hit. This trigger can occur once every 0.2 seconds. A lot of 4-piece sets are really good on him as we can see, and this is no different. Definitely designed for fast attacking characters like Ayato, so you can expect this to help you do that sudden boost of damage quite frequently. Although it is difficult to get a 4-piece set of anything, so if you want to run a double 2-piece set, you may want to go with a 2-piece Heart of Death and any 2-piece set that increases attack, and we have a lot of those lately, so it can either be Echoes, Vermilion, Shimenawas, or Gladiators. Now for the main stats. This will be different depending on how you want to play him as, so if you want him to play as a DPS, such as a main or sub one, you're going to want the Sand to be attack, Cup to be Hydro damage bonus, and your hat to be either crit rate or crit damage. This will be optimized if you want Ayato to still be on the field even after his duration of his skill is over. But if you want him to play as support, the only thing changing here is his sands, and it will be HP this time. If I'm being honest, it works just as good as attack, so you can actually keep an attack sands if you want to, or even use a HP cup for a sub DPS build as well. I was fortunate enough to have an HP and attack sands without changing my crit rate or crit damage, so I compared it, and surprisingly, keeping the HP sands actually dealt more damage. but keep in mind I had to lose my 2-piece Heart of Depth bonus, so it might have done the same damage if I didn't lose my 2-piece bonus. But for substats, it will depend on how you want to play him. So if you want him to play as a DPS of some kind, you're going to want crit rate and crit damage, as well as attack percentage and HP percentage as well. All these stats will be ideal if you want to squeeze out as much damage as possible out of Ayato. But if you want to use him as support, you're going to want crit rate and crit damage as well, but this time, you're going to want to aim for Elemental Mastery and Energy Recharge. Energy Recharge to help charge up his burst faster, because remember, it is quite expensive at 80 energy. And if you're using him as support, his burst will be used a lot for that, so that Elemental Mastery will help to boost that reaction damage. For team comps, we'll be matching up Ayato with the best possible teams for him. If you're watching me for the first time, I have this system where I pick a handful of characters that work just as good with him instead of recommending one team. I do this in case you don't have said character, want to use someone else, or if you just don't like playing this certain character. This unlocks a wide variety of gameplay, and you can mix and match to see on what you like the best. So keeping Ayato as a DPS in mind, first let's talk about support, cryo support to be exact. I'm a big fan of freeze teams, so let's talk about it. The top picks I have if you want to have a freeze team are Rosaria, Ayaka, Ganyu, and Chongyun. You can activate any of their bursts and then use Ayato's skill, then you have your enemies frozen up for quite a while. Here's some gameplay to show you an example. Although if you want to look for a vaporized team, I will recommend Hu Tao, Yoimiya, Yanfei, and Diluc. All these work great in rotation with Ayato. You can use up his skill, then switch out to any of these pyro characters and use up their skills, since 3 out of the 4 I mentioned here has special combos that has a limited duration, just like Ayato. And once you're done with that, you can switch back to Ayato and repeat. I like doing this a lot with Hu Tao. Since I charge attack a lot with her, my stamina gets depleted quite fast. And once her duration of her skill is over, I can switch to Ayato, which then he can use up his skill and let the stamina charge back up again, then switch back to Hu Tao again at full stamina and repeat. However, if you want to have a taser team, they can work out pretty well as a rotation and support, and for this you can either use Miko, Raiden, Fischl, and even Lisa. All of them has an ability that can be used while they're off the field and can also take advantage of that normal attack bonus inside of Ayato's burst. And finally, a Hydro character that can either be used as a battery or a support. So for these we have Xingqiu, Child, Kokomi, and Mona. You can use Xingqiu as a battery for Ayato, Child as a good partner to rotate, Kokomi or Mona to aggro enemies in one spot. You can't really do much with the Elemental Resonance since it doesn't affect Ayato as much, but it will serve well if you want to get Ayato's energy up. So as mentioned before, you can mix and match these characters and it will still turn out great. For example, I can have Ayato as a main DPS, Child as someone to rotate into, and with Miku's and Fischl's off-field support, it can be quite a team. Or Ayato DPS, Yoimiya rotation, Xingqiu battery, and Mona as an aggro. Or Rosaria support, Ayato DPS, Xingqiu support, and Child rotation. It is designed to be as flexible as possible with one another. Honestly, I am not quite sure how to feel about this character. I feel like he's very solid, nothing too crazy. The whole time you've been seeing him in the background, you were watching an Ayato with level 8 skill and burst, crit rate 60%, crit damage over 206%, and the level 90 R3 Black Sword. If I'm being honest, I was kinda expecting a little bit more damage for crit damage being over 200%, but it might depend on the artifacts I'm using, since the only set I have is the 2-piece Heart of Depth. This might sound a little bit too specific, but I'm trying to aim for a good Echo Feather artifact. Every other artifact I have on him is really good, so I don't want to sacrifice anything drastic for a second set. So maybe that missing attack bonus set is what may be holding me back, but only time will tell if this RNG will stop giving me the worst possible artifacts anyone can imagine. I feel like if I do get that attack bonus, I may like his skill even more, but at the same time, it's not that I'm unsatisfied with his damage. It is pretty good, I'm just saying it could have been just a little bit more at 200% crit damage. So in my honest opinion, I feel like he's a great sub DPS, but I will honestly pick someone else as my main DPS and have him as a sub. Also, I won't say it's tough, but you may not always get the entire attack out with his skill. While his skill does increase resistance, it doesn't do much against much bigger enemies. But overall, if I was going to recommend this to a new player or someone deciding to pull, I would honestly say you can let him pass, because I will admit, he is a pretty solid damage dealer. You may be doing like 5 or 6k a hit, but keep in mind, you do this over and over and quite quickly, so the overall damage is pretty high. But he's actually nothing too, I wouldn't say special, but nothing that really makes him a must pull, if you get what I'm saying. Like, there are other characters I will pick over him. If I need a Hydra support, I'll use Xingqiu instead. If I'm looking for an AoE attack that rains down on enemies, I would probably pick Ganyu. If I want to use someone as rotation, I will most likely pick Child, since his duration is much more flexible. You see what I'm saying? I know it applies with a lot of characters, but the only reason I see myself using him is for his quick attacks. I feel like he's the best overall consistent damage dealer, but it's pretty easy to see why a lot of people may be unsatisfied with him, since he doesn't deal a single hit that does massive damage. But other than that, don't be too bummed out if you didn't manage to win the 50-50. Anyways, thank you so much for watching the whole way through. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer. And if you like what you saw, please leave a like and subscribe while you're at it. If you want to see more guides like this, here is a playlist of guides I have so far, with a lot more to come in the future. And here is more Genshin related content. Thank you so much again for watching the whole way through. It means a lot and does help a lot as well. And I will see you next time.